Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon to a few of you. Welcome to today's community briefing. My name is Gregory Sneed, and we are glad you're here today. Today is the 23rd of March, and 2023. So 23 and 23, huh? There you go. So our guest today is, let's see if I can pronounce your name correctly, Mahyar Ghassemian or Ghassemian. So
Ghassemian, yes.
is
It's
it three
pretend
syllables?
there's no H in the first or the last name.
Huh?
Pretend there's no H in the first or the last name. Mahyar Ghassemian. Thank you.
Mahyar Ghassemian. Okay. I know sometime the anyway, never mind. So we're glad you're here today, and she's going to be sharing some great information on the construction industry from a legal standpoint. Mm-hmm. All right. My name is Gregory Sneed. My company is Lifesaver Financial Services, where I help my clients to keep more of the money they make. I do that through life insurance solutions, personal financial coaching, and financial literacy training, because I firmly believe that when you feel better about your money, you feel better about your life. And now it's my pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage the queen of our community briefing, Miss Crystal Mitchell.
Welcome, everyone. Glad to have you. It's another great Thursday. We have a great guest, and we have some great speaker and some great guests, some of our regulars. Hello, Ted. Hello, Joseph. And Jessica, and more will be coming in as soon as I push us out there on social media and Facebook. We're streaming live on Facebook at the present moment. So welcome, Cynthia. Thank you for coming. We are going to have a great conversation, because in business, we're here to inform you and keep you informed about everything that's going on in our community and how we can do better business, how we can be business ready, bank loan ready, contract ready, all of those readinesses, as well as to be well informed. My name is Crystal Mitchell. I am the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. This platform is powered and sponsored by Recycling Black Dollars and the BBA, the Black Business Association. And we have a plethora of monetary sponsors: the Los Angeles LDC, Southern California Edison, SoCal Gas, PCR, Wells Fargo Bank, and numerous of others. And we thank you so much. We could not do this without you. And if you are looking to sponsor us as well, you can go over to our website, the community briefing, and hit that donation button. And most importantly, right now, what we want you to do is to go over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscriber button, because we need to grow this channel so we can monetize in the on those platforms. So welcome. We had a great day, and Robin's going to share that with us. Yesterday, we are being invited out to share our information about who we are, why we are. So that was a great accomplishment for us. But also, I want to say to you guys, my co-director, many of you may know her, Miss Jackie B., who runs the Recycling Black Dollars with me. We've received some sad news that she's been diagnosed with cancer. And so today, in fact, she's undergoing treatment of PTS scan and bone marrow. So we're looking for prayers and support to uplift her, and for that it be localized in one area that is only radiation, that she will need treatment, and also that there's a speedy recovery. There is a fundraiser on Recycling Black Dollars' website, Facebook page. And so if anyone feel in their heart to support, we would absolutely love that. So with that, we have a fantastic team here on the community business: Mr. Gregory Sneed and Ms. Robin Billups and Mr. Stephen Turner. He's he's doing dual duty today, so he'll be back in a little while. But with that, before we turn it back to Greg, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Robin Billups, and she will introduce herself.
Good day, everybody. It is a good day. I am elated about what we've been doing in the community, and it's resonating with a lot of people. Yesterday, we were invited to participate in a roundtable discussion at Urban Land Institute Urban Marketplace. It's a 20-year-old event that was founded by Michael Banner. We had an opportunity, myself, Greg, and Crystal, to be there and host the roundtable. Would, every 15 minutes, we would get a new group of folks who would come to the table. And we had an opportunity to kind of talk about, what does the community briefing do? What does Recycling Black Dollars do? What do these other organizations do to help us to develop generational wealth? And how do we keep the money in our communities? That type of thing. So great conversation with a lot of good folks. And from that, we really believe that we're really starting to grow. We're starting to get that traction that we need in order for us to continue doing what we do. I'm Robin Billups. I'm with the Billups Group. I am a professional development advisor. The consulting that I do is assessing, coaching, and getting you to a strategic framework in order to be able to do business with corporations, nonprofits, whoever your client base is. And so yesterday was a great example of the community briefing is building this reputation that in the marketplace, we are the resource organization. And again, that is our mission, to provide resources so folks can walk away from every one of these briefings and have some tools that they can use or some resources that they can access to complete whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. So I'm very proud to work with these guys. And yesterday was a really, really good day. Tiffany Haddish had a fireside chat with Fiona Ma. It's quite interesting. It was quite interesting to see that dynamic take place. And the room was full of individuals who are trying to get something done in the marketplace, in our communities, but all of us have the same question. Why is it that when we try to access money, we can't ever get past how to mitigate that risk piece? And like I said, if no 45 can walk around with all the stuff that he's done and he ain't been to jail yet, he ain't been to jail yet. Why are the underwriting guidelines and the processes so different for us? So we collectively, the community briefing family, we are charging down this road to knock down these barriers to non-success. So thank you again for joining us. Please help spread the word. And we're excited about some new faces that we have here. And I'm going to turn it back over to Gregory so we can get the program started.
All right. Thank you, Robin. And yes, it was a wonderful event. And we actually made it there in the rain, in the pouring rain. When we got there, it was raining. When we left, it was raining. So I'm hoping it's all done. We needed this rain, but for those of you not in Southern California, this has been some record-setting rain.
And that says a lot for me because I melt in the rain, man. I melt. I don't come out in the rain.
It's raining so hard, this guy's down on Crenshaw selling arcs, So today our guest is Mahyar Ghassemian. Ghassemian, right? No H in there. Okay. And she is the founder and president of Ghassemian Law Group. She's an attorney practicing in litigation and transactional law in the following areas: construction defect litigation, business issues of construction, and construction contracts, contractors law, home defects, mechanics liens, licensing, and insurance disputes. And that covers a lot. There's a lot of people that are dealing that. And that's on the construction side. Then also in business, she helps businesses structuring the corporations, which is LLC, professional corporations, business contracts, negotiation, partnership contracts, partnership disputes. Nah, it never happens. Disputing with partners? No, it never happens. Buy-sell agreements and leases and lawsuits. So we should talk about that, about funding buy-sell agreements, because I do life insurance. All right. A little personal plug there. And so construction companies hire the firm to basically help them with, nothing could go wrong in construction, right? So I'm sure that keeps you and your firm pretty busy. She used to be with Morrow and White LLP as an attorney and partner. She did that for 4 years. She's now been in business for a little over 12 years. She went to Western State University College of Law to get her JD. I have no idea where she grew up, so she'll share that with us. And I'll give you your little 30-second commercial. Are you facing a lawsuit and don't know how to keep the cost down? Do you need an attorney with large firm experience that can also be there for you? Has your business been sued? Are you worried about the future of business? Does your attorney have technical construction experience? If not, you want to see Mahyar Ghassemian. Floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Stephen, for reaching out to me. And thank you, Crystal and Greg, for hosting this. I really appreciate it. I see some familiar faces. I've done some work with NAMAC, and I've probably known them for, 8-9 years now. It's a great group. And Mahyar Ghassemian. Everybody just knows me as Mahyar. It's hard, the first and last name that are really hard to pronounce. So just say Mahyar and I'll be happy. And the best way to do that is just put my and an R next to it, and that's easy. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm actually from Iran originally, although I've spent most of my life here in this country. I came when I was 20, which was 5 years ago. Just kidding. I am. So I started. I grew up there, and I went to school really young, and I wanted to become an astronaut. And I had parents that were very excited to support me. My mom was an educator. My dad was an accountant, and they just said, sky's the limit. So what I did was, in school, I decided to go to college for physics. And so I got a bachelor's in physics. I was only 19 when I got my bachelor's. I was hurrying up, got here to the US when I was 20, continued with getting a master's in physics. I taught a little bit for about a year after I graduated at Cal State Long Beach. You all know where Long Beach is, and the wonderful California State University. And then after that, I got into corporate, mainly because I didn't want to get into a lot of defense projects. And then after that, I decided to go to law school because I'm a glutton for punishment. And I had to go to law school when I had a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I loved it. I loved the subject from day one. And that was a long time ago. I graduated top 10% of my class. I was honored contractors. They liked my background in science. They wanted someone who had a technical background, kind of works well with construction, especially construction defect cases, where you have to put a team of experts together and you actually have to semi-understand what they're talking about and be able to herd the cats to the right place there. So I loved the construction field, and I stuck with it. A few years later, I went into another firm and we started doing a lot of business. All of this was litigation, meaning lawsuits, people that get sued, and we would defend them. And then after they were done with their lawsuits, and being in a lawsuit, if any of you have been part of it, is no picnic. It takes 1.5 to 2 years, sometimes longer, to get through a lawsuit. And even if an insurance company is involved and paying for your lawsuit, which happens sometimes with defects, etc., you're still under a lot of pressure. So they would come to us and say, what can we do to prevent this? And so right now, what we do in our company is about 10-15% of our work is just prevention. And I'll talk about that a little bit. But so I continued with the construction litigation and the construction preventative work. And then all construction companies are businesses. So it was only natural that I got into business litigation. I have practiced as a lawyer for about 23.5 years. And our firm, which I established about October 2010, now has 9 people. I think it's 9 as of today. And we have a team of attorneys, all very experienced, that help businesses and in construction space and otherwise. So with that, I thought I'd address a couple of things that have been of concern recently, and then open it up for questions and answers. So one of the issues that it has been sort of in the media, and the media like to just blow everything out of proportion. No disrespect to anybody from media who's here, but basically the state of the economy. Well, I'm on the board of the AGC, Associated General Contractors. I'm on the Orange County board. I was on the state board until a couple months ago. I'm with their legal advisory committee, as well as other construction associations such as NAMAC and Southern California Contractors Association. Basically, construction and the state of construction in our state is pretty solid. All construction companies are really busy and they're very optimistic towards the future. So this is, a lot of it is result of various infrastructure and other types of improvement. We all know that in the LA area, Metro still has a lot of projects going. LAWA is there. You know, a lot of our clients were in SoFi. Quite a few of my clients from NAMAC were involved in SoFi and are now involved in LAWA. The pipelines are still there and they seem to be quite strong. And in this industry, everybody seems to be very positive. So let's not panic about the bank failures. So the bank failures are the next thing I wanted to just kind of tell everybody, don't panic. Hopefully nobody on this call or people that we know had their construction loans or lines of credit with any of the banks that failed. But if they do, they shouldn't panic. A good attorney can help them, negotiate and get somewhere else, as opposed to, a lot of people, when they get panicked, they throw their hands up and go, oh my God, I can't do anything anymore. If there's a fund control that was with one of these banks, oh my God, what's going to happen? Well, a lot of times negotiation, it helps, and we're good at negotiating. We settle 95% of our cases by trying to just bring parties together. So those are some of the things that we can help, and I want to give a little bit of optimistic, preview of what's to come. Just the infrastructure improvements on the state and the federal level, the disaster construction, hurricane, fire, flood, all of these things are still there, and construction companies can be very busy. So that's that. I wanted to talk a little bit about payment issues. One of the issues that we started seeing a lot of with the start of COVID was construction projects happening, but there are a lot of payment issues. Maybe the prime isn't paying on time, maybe the general is not paying the subcontractor, etc. Well, in California, if we're talking only about California, and I'm sure there's similar laws in other states too, there are things called prompt payment laws, and there are penalties. General contractors under the law are obligated to pay the subcontractors within a certain period of time after they get paid. So if you got a general that's sitting and they've gotten paid, they've gotten paid and they're not paying you, well, attorneys can help. We can put together some demands. We can bring some oomph into it. We can do some proper analysis, tell them how they're going to have to pay 2% penalty per month on the amount that since they were late. So those are things we can help you with. We also see a lot of change order issues. And that I would say the number one reason for disputes in construction that we have seen are change orders, where at the site, the contractor, general contractor maybe asks the sub to do something extra, and they say, well, what about extra amounts of money we have to spend on labor, materials, and everything else to mobilize and do this one? And somebody at the site says, oh, don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll cover it. So I see Greg laughing there. Yeah, that's the reason that all these problems arise. So I have a few tips. If you're involved in a construction site and somebody says, oh yeah, we will cover it, make sure, number one, that person is an authorized representative of the general, the owner, whoever is supposed to approve that change order. Number two, have them sign a change order, an actual written down change order. And if, some people say, but we're good friends and we're on a handshake basis, blah, blah. Well, I have seen so many projects where your good friend on the site leaves the company or is fired. And then who are you left with? They're going to come and say, you didn't ask for a change order. You didn't ask us to approve it. We're not going to pay you. And so even if the person is authorized, try to get them to sign. Any small agreements that you make on the site, come back to your office, and even from your car, you can use your phone and do a confirming email. This confirming email saying, hey, just to make sure we are on the same page, this is what we talked about, and you said this is okay. Please let me know if your understanding is different. We can actually use that in court because it's a written document that shows they didn't respond to, they didn't say something was wrong. We sent it to them, and guess what? That shows, that's evidence. We can bring it to court. Those are some of the tips that I had in mind. There's a lot more, but I don't know if there are a lot of questions. I don't want to take too much time if there are a lot of questions. If they're not, hey, lawyers can talk forever. So I can talk for another hour. But if there are a lot of questions, I'd like to entertain questions.
Do you see disputes increasing? Is it staying the same? And how did COVID? How did that impact? Because obviously there was supply chain issues and delays in materials. So talk a little bit about what's the climate? Is it getting better? Or is it getting worse? Is it about the same?
I think it's hard to say if it's getting better or worse. I think your practices determine the climate for your company. If you have good practices, if you make sure you document properly, if you make sure you're on good terms with the general or whoever the superintendent is on the site, a lot of disputes can actually be avoided by picking up the phone. Yes, the phone, not a text, not an email, picking up the phone or having a face-to-face conversation, because your texts, your emails, a lot of times either lose the touch or they get the wrong tone across. Now, as far as COVID, a lot of issues came to the surface, as you said, the supply chain issue. So a lot of times we as attorneys, we get hired after the fact, right? So we need to put I always say my clients come to my office,
with their hair on fire.
With everything on fire. And a lot of times it's almost like when you have a jigsaw puzzle, you throw it in the air, it falls down, you gather it all in a plastic bag, and you tell me, here, put it together. So we're going to have to put it together based on what you provide to us. The more documents you have, the better it is. With COVID, we always go back to the contract. That's your first place you want to go back to, whether it's a construction contract, a business contract, contract, as you mentioned, like partnership between partners, whatever it is, you go back to the contract. Unfortunately, pre-COVID, a lot of contracts didn't have the right language for
Mhm.
your force majeure, for your
Mhm.
delay, for things that would actually talk about what if the government tells you to shut down? What if the ports are shut down and you can't get, say, wood or aluminum from overseas? What are you going to do? So we did get a lot of people that came to us for those reasons. We try to negotiate with the other side. We always try to bring some common sense into the discussion. It always helps. But we've also been reaching out to our old clients, telling them, look, we need to update your contracts. So if you have had a contract that you're using yourself, most of the time, if you're in a public contract or a larger contract or a construction project, you're going to have the other side provide you with a contract. But if you have contracts that you use, let's make sure that you've got the right provisions in there. And also, if you have contracts that are now being given to you and you have to sign, let's read them properly. Now, I know most companies have someone who is their contract administrator, and they would look at the contract and okay it. But let's face it, they're looking at it from a different perspective than an attorney will. They will look at it, usually, is this the right scope of work? Okay, is this what we bid? And what is the price and payment terms, right? Those are what they're going to look at. What we look at is, what does the indemnity provision say? That's basically the provision that transfers the risk from someone who signed the contract to someone who actually did the work. And we're going to look at some of these delay provisions, force majeure. We're going to look at whether the transfer of risk that's provided for in the contract that came from the humongous company, is that something that is equal and fair to both sides? Because if it's not, then we're going to tell them, well, maybe we can negotiate. And if there's absolutely no room for negotiation, at a minimum, you can know what the minefields are. Where are the bombs here, so we don't step on them? And that's one of the things that we do.
I would imagine I'm thinking of a very small contractor. I think it's called Turner.
Yes, I do know them.
And I would imagine they have their own legal departments that, prepare documents and what have you. What do smaller contractors do? Is there intermediary? I mean, or is your firm involved in setting up the contract? Or you say a lot of times you're getting it, when I think, as Robin put it, when the hair's on fire. Are there entities out there that help with contract administration, for those sort of medium to smaller contractors?
Right. We don't do administration. What we do is we draft contracts and we review contracts and let you know what can be done about them beforehand, if you can negotiate. Now, I know that we also help a lot with public contracting. In public contracting, you almost have no power to negotiate anything. It's put out there for you. One tip to subcontractors: when you sign a subcontract that's given to you by a general contractor, usually the prime contract is incorporated in it. You have a right to ask for a copy of the prime contract. Sorry, I have to take a drink of water. 95% of cases that come to us, they don't know what the prime contract says. Now, whether you know it or you don't, you're going to be you're going to be held responsible to the provisions of that prime contract. So please do yourself a favor as a subcontractor, or those of you who are consultants, tell your friends who are subcontractors to ask the general in writing for that contract, because you have a right to see what's in there, so you know what you're signing on to, because it's not just your subcontract. So yeah, we try to help prevent with some of these measures.
Do these contracts have any type of summary, executive summary, or extract? I can imagine, some of these contracts can be very voluminous. And if you got a prime contract, I'm guessing that thing could be in the hundreds of pages, or I mean, now I'm going back to like actual pages, but I mean now I can imagine saying everything's PDF or what have you. But is there an extract? How would somebody really kind of go through that? Because I imagine going through a prime contract would just be daunting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to sound like we attorneys can do everything, but what I'm going to say is that, give it to an attorney whose job is in construction, and they would know what to look for. I mean, we know which provisions to look for that are more important.
I was about to say, is there an attorney you could recommend?
I'm sorry?
I was teasing you. Is there an attorney you could recommend that offers those services?
Yeah. Anyway, there are a lot of good attorneys out there, really. And if we conflict out because you come to us because we already have represented or have a client that's against you, we have a bunch of other good construction attorneys to refer you to, and other types of attorneys too.
Are you seeing clauses? I'm with you in a minute. Are you seeing clauses for obviously for being late? But what about also early to encourage contractors to complete ahead of schedule, where they receive a premium over the bid? Is that increasing, or
not so much in public contracts?
That's what I was afraid of.
Private contractors, some private contractors try to encourage subcontractors to come ahead of schedule and might give them bonuses or tell them that this is, how much, because they will save money. So they'll tell you, if you come ahead of schedule, we can give you this much extra. I don't see too many of them. Mostly it's like, hey, do not delay or you're going to have to pay this much extra.
Right. And I imagine there are some places and even countries where you're lucky to be sued if you don't meet the contract, because other places would be, penalties would be a little more severe. So that sure is a challenge.
I don't know if I'll ever say you're lucky to be sued, because I'm a litigator and we try to keep people out of lawsuits because it's never lucky to be sued, but go for it.
Well, I'd take litigation over being exterminated. So that's what I was
well, of course, that's another story. I mean, we're lucky we live in the U.S. and California, even though it's rainy and gray now, but it is still, we're lucky. We're living in a time of peace.
Yeah. One last thing, and I was, I encourage I appreciate your sort of the don't worry, be happy, like the economy is going. I think there's a challenge in looking at the economy in a singular standpoint, because the stock market economy doesn't necessarily translate to middle America. There's a middle America economy, there's an affluent economy, and then there's a, lack of a better term, there's a hood economy, and there's hood all over the country. There's hoods in, here in California, West Virginia, coal mine area. And so what's happening in the stock market is not necessarily an indication of what's happening, for individuals that are struggling, to meet the ends. And food prices and fuel prices and gasoline prices really, have put a lot of folks in trouble, where they were having to resort to credit cards just for groceries and just everyday living. So it is challenging for a lot of people.
And may I add something there? I did not to minimize the challenges everybody's facing because of inflation. I mean, even in our law practice, our expenses have almost doubled since last year. And these are vendor expenses. Everybody's raising their prices.
Yeah.
If I raise my price, everybody just go, what? Are you kidding me? So it's a challenge everywhere you go. And I fully understand that. I just think we do better if we go in a reasonable way, if we try to dot the I's and cross the T's, but don't listen so much to the doom and gloom. Just doom and gloom and being in a negative position is never good. But we as business owners, I'm a small business owner. I have all those challenges. And what do? Try to prevent as much as we can. We're hard workers. We work hard and we try to do whatever we can. What befalls the entire economy is there, of course. But overall, construction is a pretty good place to be at right now because of all these projects, because they were, just look at the restaurant industry that just almost went under completely. Most of them went under. Most of the little restaurants went under during COVID. And construction, thank God, and thank you to all the lobbyists for the construction industry that were able to have that declaration that it's an essential business, and people kept working. So long as we work, I'm always trying to be positive.
Thank you.
And,
Crystal and Robin, over to you.
I think that, Mayor, one of the things that you indicated for us as small business, because I'm not in the construction business, but I have noticed since January, slow pay on my invoices is real critical, has been becoming an issue. And I like the fact that you're saying you might have to send out a notification. I'll keep sending out my reminder notices, but I need to. It's March. You guys need to get back on track. I'll give you the January to get the funnel through getting back on track. But by March, you need to get my payments into me by 30 days, net 30 days, because them slowing up your payment creates a problem, especially when costs are going up, right? So now you have to tap into your emergency funds in order to stay alive, because your payments, your commitments, your financial obligations still have to be paid in that 30-day period. So that really puts a challenge to you doing business when your payments and your invoices are not being paid in a timely manner. So I get that.
I agree. We have the same issue here in our law firm. It's people as an accountant, are scared, so maybe they don't even have the money and they don't want to pay. They try to pay their electricity bill, and the rest of us. Yeah,
right, exactly. But it's a domino effect. But in business, if as a small business owner, you're operating in small margins anyway. Sure. so you're all your monies are needed in order to carry you over each month after month after month. And yes, you do have your emergency funds, but you don't want to tap into your emergency funds as a matter of survival every month, because your customers are doing whatever they're doing on their end. So I like the fact that I have a business partner. He don't play when it comes to his money. You late 31 days, his attorney's already sending out the 2%. It's just a matter of doing business for him. Right. And I guess, sometimes I hesitate on that, but I'm like, well, maybe I need to adopt that same thing. So.
Well, and when you think about it, if you adopt that same thing, you're literally teaching people how to do business with you, right?
Yeah.
So every time you let them slide, then it slides deeper into their benefit against your benefit. I wanted to jump in because, one, I know this lady. This woman is one of those individuals who donates a lot of her time, her expertise. So I would strongly recommend, when you're looking for an attorney, and especially if you're in the construction business, this is an organization that I would vouch for, because I've had the experience of working with her. My background, having spent 27 years doing commercial real estate construction financing at a huge scale with the large firms. Even with the larger firms, you can find an individual like Mahyar who is a community person. She's committed to maintaining reputational risk, but also staying at a professional level and protecting our clients. Ted Booker had a question: would you recommend small contractors have an attorney review their contracts? And thank you for reviewing that comment. Making those tidbits that you shared, because at the end of the day, one of the things we talked about early on with this program is, if you don't have folks on your staff, you need to have them on contract. And an attorney, an accountant, your marketing person, and HR, those are critical pieces to small business. And so no, you may not necessarily hire her permanently as a part of your staff, but you certainly need to build a relationship with an attorney prior to having that need. And really the need comes in as soon as you get a contract, as soon as you start bidding on something. And so, yes, I concur, and I'm certain that Mahyar would concur that,
Yes,
go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Robin, for your kind words. I appreciate it. One thing I want to say, you know, that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Unfortunately, when people don't want to spend some money up front to have their contracts reviewed or be told what they should avoid, what happens is when you're in a lawsuit, and only lawsuits that have defect issues are covered by insurance, okay? And those are even under special circumstances, okay? So the majority of lawsuits are not covered by insurance. You have to pay out of pocket. And I have seen a lot of companies go bankrupt with a lawsuit. So maybe it seems like, oh, well, I can get a contract off of the internet, but you don't know what you're getting into. Have someone review it. And we do, you know, attorneys are overall expensive, but the expense of not doing it and falling into trouble where an attorney has to defend you in court is astronomical. So yes, I would recommend that. I would recommend you have someone take a look at it. And I would recommend you reach out to someone who has expertise, especially construction is not your regular business. You know, we do a lot of regular business work, but construction has all of these idiosyncrasies and little things. And unfortunately, if you're in construction, it's not if you're going to be sued, it's when.
Yeah.
Especially here in California, such a low litigation state.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mahyar, can you speak to, I just lost my train of thought. I wanted you to speak to the fact that when people, this was what I wanted to say. When you're working with your clients, you know, it's my understanding or my experience has been that you hire somebody, and let me just give this to them. My contention is, why wouldn't you work with an attorney so you can understand the document? Can you speak to that a little bit? That, you know, when you're walking your client through the document, are they listening? Are they taking notes? Are they learning from the relationship?
I hope they're listening. You can't really guarantee that. But certainly. Part of our contract review, we review a contract, we highlight it. I always make a joke. People say, maybe you never went to kindergarten. I say, yeah, I never went to kindergarten. That's why I like highlighting. We highlight, and then we have a full-on discussion with the client. This is what this means. This is what that means. That really gives them an understanding. For the smaller projects, what we do is that we draft contracts that can be used over and over and over again. So if you have a home improvement contractor, which, by the way, they have to have a proper contract under California law. It's just so specific down to the boldness of the type and what is the font. I mean, it's ridiculous. But we draft one contract for them, and they usually can use it for a few years. And what we do is we send a mass emailing if there's something that has changed that people have to kind of, oh my God, this is time I need to add something to my contract every few years. But one contract that you invest on can carry you through possibly hundreds of projects.
So, Mahyar, we have a question in the chat box about cost. What is it when someone comes to you? I know there's a such thing as being on retainer, and then there's a per transaction kind of relationship. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. How much time an attorney has to spend on your contract determines the cost, right? Because we're not producing a gadget. Our production is the thought process and what comes out of our experience and education. So what we do is that if we look at a contract, we can tell you how much it's going to cost, an approximation, and we usually do a flat rate, okay? So we give a flat rate upfront depending on how big the contract is. And on the other hand, the retainer is when you're in a lawsuit, then you're going to have to pay a deposit that stays in the account and pay monthly on an hourly basis. We also have, and a lot of attorneys do too, for people who know they're going to need an attorney 10 hours a month, we have special year-long contracts where we go, okay, you need 10 hours a month every single month, you'll get a break, we'll charge you for 8 hours, something like that. And this is how much you pay for a month. We can do that too. We work with our clients. Again, for most people, it is a sticker shock how much attorneys charge. But, we tell you upfront, this contract, we're probably going to charge you this much. And then it's up to you if you really want to take the risk.
Can you give us some kind of ballpark of what the hourly rate looks like? And I know it's specific to the transaction, it's specific to the contract.
It's kind of hard to say. Yeah,
that's what I imagine. Yeah,
it's kind of hard to say, but again, when you have a flat rate upfront, that's it. That's what you're going to pay. Crystal was talking about money coming slowly. For most businesses, charge a deposit up front so you're not totally left out in the cold, and before you give the final product, I don't know what it is, try to get most of the rest of it back before you do that.
Yeah, when I do big projects. Yeah,
that's a problem.
I have one other comment, and then I'm going to give it back to Crystal. There's also a question regarding the diversity, equity, and inclusion and effort be leveraged for more contracting opportunities. I will say this, coming out of construction financing and actually creating a supplier diversity program, I call it supply chain inclusion. Because if you come to the table talking about supplier diversity, that's a program. Supply chain inclusion is meaning that you are actively engaged in the procurement process. And so with that, I said when I got into supplier diversity back in 2006, I realized everybody has a construction budget.
Right.
Everybody, the majority of organizations, I don't care what industry you're in, construction and facilities is the largest bucket of spend. New construction, remodel, reposition, relocating, all of this activity that goes on around construction and facilities. And so when you're talking about how do you leverage diversity, equity, inclusion, what you do is have an understanding, take the time to do the due diligence to find out, do they use your services? How much is that spend? When is it coming up for renewal? Do you have an incumbent supplier now, a vendor now? And is it on automatic renewals with the contract? There's a lot of layers to that. So there's no real question on how does diversity, equity, and inclusion effort be leveraged for more contracting opportunities. That's a given. Yes. It's a given.
And as you know, a lot of the larger prime contractors have specific quotas that they've established for themselves for diversity, equality, and inclusion. I remember about 6 years ago probably, I was at an AGC meeting and I looked around and I said, my God, everybody's just white. What the heck is this? Mm-hmm. So I remember they have put a big effort into DEI. There's a big provision that they're doing. And I put Aaron Volk, who was starting that, in touch with NAMAC. And I see there's some going back and forth to bring more, more diversified people into that. We're a women-owned business ourselves. My office is kind of a rainbow, and that's how we want to have it, Yeah. So, but find out about every project. They have they have them. And there are a lot of people, my friend Roger Fisher, who is always the liaison with the diversity liaison for the large time contractors, reach out to people like that if you don't know where to start. That's always a good place to start.
Greg had a question.
Sure.
What about homeowners that are having work done, from a contractor? So contractors give them a contract to sign. Are you doing much of that, or is it pretty much more at the business level? How does that work?
We are mostly business level, but because we have a smaller firm, it's a boutique firm as opposed to when I was part of a large firm with 60 attorneys. We can look at the cases as they come on a case-by-case basis. We do represent some homeowners, not a whole lot, but some. But mostly we're representing contractors. We do a home improvement contract package that, depending on whether we're doing it for a contractor or a homeowner, is a different, a little bit of a different slant. It's one of our flat rate packages. We do a lot of that. We do a lot of public contracting. And I was going to give some quick, I know we're running out of time, but some quick tips about public contracting. For God's sake, whoever hasn't done it before, talk to someone who's done it before. You put in a bid and you don't need to sign a contract. You put in a bid and you're there. That's it. They're counting on your bid and you're stuck. You can't change your stuff later. Bid protests, those are important, by law. On a public project, the owner the governmental entity will have to go with bids that are from responsible contractors, meaning contractors that meet the criteria, but also they have to be responsive. But what do we mean by responsive? They have to be exactly giving a bid that takes all the scope of work and what the owner wanted and give prices for those. So we've been doing a lot of bid protests. Basically, the contractor comes and once the bid is, one bid is accepted, then part of it becomes part of those first few lowest ones become public. And our contractor says, oh, you know what? They came lower than me, but that's because they left up this $200,000 item. Oops. So take a look at those and see if they're actually the lowest one, because if they're not, then we can help you with a bid protest, which is a proper legal document we put together, and that would be sent to the governmental entity, and they have a duty under the Public Contracts Code to actually look at those bids and make sure that they didn't make a mistake. A couple other quick things. For God's sake, again, if you're in a public contract, don't do your own payroll. Get someone to do your certified payroll for you. I've seen a lot of contractors and contracting companies get involved in issues with the payroll, and those are, if it's not done properly by someone who knows how to do certified payrolls, then you get into trouble not only with the government entity in your contract, but also with the Department of Labor. You don't want to get involved with that.
DOLEDD, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have a client that I do their billing for, and I tell you they have city clients, and the drama that goes along with the invoicing of that. They come back, they change the times, even though there's a payroll service that is doing the time. They come back and say, no, that didn't take place. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had to revise invoices. And of course, the client just wants to get paid. So the client is complying with the drama. And I'm in the accounting world, so I know what's happening. It's a delay in paying the invoice. And I'm like, dude, you need an attorney because you need to stop this nonsense. Because there's invoices I've changed revised 7 times and going back and forth and back and forth. And I keep copies of everything, and I can actually see it happening. And it's delayed payments for 4 and 5 and 6 months, which then means he has to have a factoring company in order to keep his payroll going. It's ridiculous, the games that are played in that area. And so he really truly needs an attorney. And a lot of times that, I have found with my clients, and I'm sure you know this, Mayor, is that we kind of try to mitigate our expenses, right? So we think, like you said, you come with the hair on fire. Same thing with me. People come to me when their hair is on fire and they got to they want a loan, or the IRS is coming after them. That's when they come to me, as opposed to coming to me before they get to that place. But you really want to invest in this person that prevents the fire before you get to the fire, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of time and effort and money trying to prevent spending money in the first place. Do you guys also? I have other clients that are property managers or have property. Do you guys handle those type of cases where, especially now with the whole with the homelessness and the eviction processes and all that, do you guys handle those kind of cases?
We have an attorney who does a lot of unlawful detainers and like that. So yeah, we can do that too. I just wanted to give one more last bit of advice, and any of your clients that are actual contractors, tell them the best thing they can do in a construction project is to document. What we mean by that is that years ago when I first started and we represented Turner, the files that came from Turner, of course, they came like in 50 bankers' boxes, right? But there was one file for each subcontractor, and that file included their contract, their insurance, information, any type of scope of work, different types of invoices and billing and this and that. Do the same nowadays. Everything is digital. Whatever you're doing, have an organized digital way of keeping stuff. And then whatever you talk about at the site, document with a confirming email. Whenever you're at the site, we all have these handy dandy phones, right? Mm-hmm. Take pictures. Tell people to take pictures every single day at the site. Have them fill out a daily field report. The person who is best organized and has the most amount of documents in a lawsuit wins.
I had a quick question. Would video suffice instead of having things in writing? They actually record them saying, "Oh yeah, that's going to be okay." Well, yeah. Oh, stand by. Let me get you on camera.
Sure, let me get that. That's for sure. Yeah, but again, make sure the person who gives the okay is an authorized person. Usually, the first thing you should do on a project site is ask who is the authorized representative of the owner, of the general contractor, prime contractor. So you know this person has authority. They're not just talking,
And Mahyar, I'm working with I have some clients that I'm working with as well. And I think that success only comes from documentation. You can minimize your stress, you minimize the conflict, and getting people to understand that if you go into a meeting and there is no agenda, when you leave that meeting, memorialize the conversation.
Right.
If there is an agenda, make doc notes on that agenda so that you, again, memorialize the conversation. And this way, when they come to you, when there's a challenge, at least they have some paperwork and some documentation. When I literally tell all of my clients, and I tell anybody, mimic whatever that client is doing. Mm-hmm. If they're hosting meetings every week with their team, you need to host a meeting every week with your team. If they are, however they are functioning, because they're a larger organization and they are literally successful in the way they operate. So thank you for saying that regarding the documentation, because I don't think people really realize they're moving so fast that they're not realizing you're not covering your butt. That's really
Robert,
what it boils down to.
What you said is so important. Mimic, someone who's done it and done it well.
Yeah.
They say success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. you see someone who's been successful, look at them. What are they doing? They're probably very organized. They probably have someone in charge of everything that needs to be done, one person responsible for it. If the people on the site, they're not the biggest writers, your workers, have one person to write stuff, have them take videos and snap pictures and things of that nature. There's a lot of software out there. Way back when I first started as a construction attorney, we would get these daily field reports that had the project name, the name of the parties involved, who was on the site on that day, even how the weather was. And you would say, why would they need the weather? Because if someone comes and says there was a puddle of water from the rain and I fell down there and I'm going to sue you, if you can show that there was no rain for 2 months, then your chances of winning is a lot better. So nowadays there's a lot of software out there. There are a lot of apps that you can get for very little subscription per month, and use those on the site to document all of these things. That will literally sometimes save your company.
No great. Detail is too small, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes. Well, some things are important, who was on the site on that day. These are the workers, the names of the workers, because if a worker was not there and then comes and says, I had an accident on that day, you've got a record that says, no, he wasn't there.
And just in closing, Ted, left a note that I love. Whenever there is a dispute, the only thing that counts is what is in writing.
Exactly. And I'm gonna follow up with I have a girlfriend of mine that's an HR director, and she always says the one with the most paperwork wins. And because she, as an HR director, and this is for our nonprofits that are on here, you don't know how much litigation and how much exposure you have as a nonprofit, because sometimes you don't operate like a real business, you don't operate like a for-profit business, and so you don't document everything that you should be documenting. And so when you have encounters with your volunteers, you don't document these things that are happening, and then they go to sue you or they go to create problems for you. There's no documentation anywhere. Or you implement something outside of your board and you don't let your board know that you're doing it, and they're the fiduciary responsible parties for your business. You need to know that you need to document everything that's happening, because you can be sued as well. So just know that documentation is your savior.
And organization.
And organization, yes.
Organize it, for God's sake. Don't just give a bunch of, files, digital or in paper, to your attorney and say, hey, make sense of it, because that's going to cost you a lot of money. The more organized you are. I have a client that came a week and a half ago, and he brought these binders. He had organized everything for us. It's perfect because I don't have to waste his money, and we get a good picture of what happened, because again, we come afterwards. Remember that.
Yes.
Most of the time we hope to go before to prevent.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you.
Thank you very much. We have a website, occonstructionattorneys.com. If you need to look at, some of our blogs, we do blogs, you can sign up for emails, we do tips for businesses. So you can go on that website. Again, occonstructionattorneys.com.
And Justin can put that in the chat for us so that you guys, and I've put something.
There you go. Justin did.
Justin, can you put that for us so that people can reach out to you if you guys have any questions? And please reach out to her. She's been given the thumbs up by Ms. Robin, because sometimes that's the question. We just don't know who to call and to have those conversations. And maybe even if you don't you don't service that, you may have referrals to someone that you trust and can give them that. We want to thank you guys. Next week, we have Miss Sharon Coleman, who is the president and founder of Coleman Construction, woman contractor, just like Miss Bianca over there, and in the construction industry. And so she'll be here. She's also the president. She's the founder of NAMAC, National Association, or just the president?
She's the president.
The president for the National Association for Minority Contract Construction Workers. Is that what it's called?
Contractors.
Contractors. So come on out next week, guys, and support her and hear about her business. You know, women in the construction industry is like an anomaly all by itself. And I'm just always amazed at them because that's a male dominated industry, and they find their way in, and they usually find their way up to the top of the ranks of that. And so, you know, we have to give them their accolades and their applause. So we want to definitely support them. So Greg, you want to take us out? Thank you guys all for being there. You make sure you're networking with each other. And I want to thank all of our regulars, Yolande, Marilyn, thank you for popping in. And Jessica, thank you. And Kevin, hello, Kevin, and Yolanda, and Joseph. And Joseph's been regular every week. Thank you, Joseph.
Good to see everybody.
And I think, Joseph, you're going to be a guest soon, right? Yes, a guest.
Yes, that is correct. Next month.
Okay, Joseph will be a guest soon. So please come back. But Mahyar, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're glad to have you. And everyone I put in the chat, we've become digitized. Armand will like that. We have now a QR code for our subscribing to our YouTube channel. So go on over. I'll put it back in again just in case you came in late. So hit that QR code and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to monetize this platform. We have big plans for the community briefing, so we need your help to do that. We want this to be the platform where you come for all information pertaining to our community. So Greg, you want to take us out?
Go right ahead, Crystal.
Okay, we are here every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. So we will see you guys back here at this Bat channel on next Thursday. Bring a friend, tell a friend, and go over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. It's important to us to really build this platform. We have big goals and big plans, and we need your help to do that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here.
All righty.
All righty, guys.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you, Mahyar. We appreciate you.